The ghost species. The vast emptiness of space stretched before Admiral Zaxel Vor as he gazed through the viewport of the Confederate flagship Eternal Dawn. His four eyes, characteristic of the Thraxi species, blinked in sequence as he studied the distant stars. The border patrol had been uneventful for weeks, exactly as he preferred it. The Galactic Confederation had enjoyed nearly 3 centuries of relative peace since the Great Unification, with only minor skirmishes among the 27 member species. "Admiral, incoming transmission from Central Command," announced Lieutenant Mira, her translucent skin shimmering under the bridge lights. The Aquarian officer's gills fluttered nervously, which immediately put Vor on alert. "Put it through," he ordered, straightening his uniform. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing High Chancellor Oris, the elected leader of the Confederation. The ancient Vexary's crystalline features were set in a grim expression. "Admiral Vor, our deep space monitoring stations have detected an anomalous signal originating from the unclaimed territories. The signal pattern matches nothing in our database." The Chancellor paused. "The energy signature, however, bears similarities to theoretical models of old Earth technology." Vor's mandibles clicked in surprise. "Earth technology? Surely that's impossible, Chancellor. Humans have been extinct for over 500 cycles." "Nevertheless, I want the Eternal Dawn to investigate. Take a diplomatic contingent with you. If, by some miracle, this is indeed of human origin, we must proceed with caution." After the transmission ended, Vor turned to his first officer, Commander Brax, a hulking Taurian whose metallic exoskeleton gleamed in the low light. "What do you make of this, Commander?" "Humans are bedtime stories, Admiral," Brax rumbled. "Tales to frighten young ones about the species that destroyed themselves before they could join the stars. Nothing more." "And yet," Vor mused, "every species in the Confederation has legends about them. The missing link. The ghost species." 2 days later, the Eternal Dawn, accompanied by 3 support vessels, approached the source of the mysterious signal. They had entered the unclaimed territories, a vast region of space that served as a buffer between the Confederation and the unknown reaches beyond. "Admiral," the sensor officer called out, "we're detecting multiple objects ahead." "Large vessels, sir." "On screen," Vor ordered. The main view screen activated, revealing a sight that sent a ripple of shock through the bridge crew. Dozens of massive ships hung in the void before them, their designs unlike anything in known space. Sleek, predatory, with clean lines that somehow managed to be both elegant and intimidating. "By the first light," whispered Lieutenant Mira, "those aren't Confederate designs." "Nor are they from the fringe worlds," added Commander Brax. "These are unknown." "Scan them," Vor ordered, his voice steady despite the unease growing within him. "Full spectrum analysis." The science officer, a Viridian named Tello, worked the controls with his 6-fingered hands. "Energy readings are off the charts, Admiral. These vessels are powered by something far beyond our current technology." And there, Tello stopped abruptly, his scale-covered face paling to a light green. "What is it, officer?" Vor demanded. "They're scanning us, sir. But the precision. They're reading our quantum signatures. They can see everything. Crew complement, weapon systems, even our communications protocols." A cold silence fell over the bridge. For a species to possess such technology meant they were not just advanced, they were generations ahead of the Confederation. "Open a channel," Vor said finally. "All frequencies, universal translation matrix active." For several tense moments, there was no response. Then, without warning, every display on the bridge changed simultaneously. A single figure appeared, bipedal, with no visible exoskeleton, scales, or other features common to Confederation species. The being wore a sleek gray uniform with insignia Vor couldn't recognize. "This is Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth Alliance vessel Horizon. You have entered protected space. Identify yourselves." The words hung in the air as the bridge crew stared in disbelief. Humans, the extinct species, the myths made flesh. Vor stepped forward. This is Admiral Zaxel Vor of the Galactic Confederation flagship Eternal Dawn. We detected your signal and came to investigate. We believe your species to be extinct. The human's expression remained impassive. Your belief was convenient for us. We have been watching the Confederation for centuries. Your borders have now reached the buffer zone we established. This meeting was inevitable. Captain Reyes, Vor said carefully, the Confederation would welcome the opportunity for peaceful dialogue with the Earth Alliance. We had no knowledge of your survival. A slight smile appeared on the human's face. Of course you didn't, Admiral. That was by design. The revelation sent shockwaves through the Confederation. Emergency sessions were called as leaders of all 27 member species gathered to discuss the implications. Humans, the legendary species that had disappeared from their homeworld before the first interstellar contacts, had not only survived but thrived in secret, developing technology that made the Confederation's most advanced systems look primitive by comparison. 3 days after the initial contact, a diplomatic summit was arranged on a neutral space station at the edge of the unclaimed territories. Admiral Vor led the Confederate delegation, accompanied by diplomats from various species. As they approached the meeting chamber, Vor noticed the stark difference between the two groups. The Confederation representatives were a kaleidoscope of forms, scaled, furred, crystalline, gaseous contained in environment suits, while the humans presented a unified appearance, though they varied in skin tone and facial features. Captain Reyes stepped forward as the designated spokesperson. The Earth Alliance appreciates this opportunity for dialogue. For 5 centuries, we have observed the development of your Confederation from a distance. If I may ask, ventured diplomatic envoy Tilara, a telepathic Mindari, why did humanity choose to remain hidden? Records indicate Earth was abandoned centuries ago. Not abandoned, Reyes corrected. Evacuated. When our scientists detected the approaching void storm, what your records call the Great Calamity, we realized Earth would be rendered uninhabitable. Rather than seek aid from emerging spacefaring civilizations, which might have led to dependency or exploitation, humanity chose a different path. We took our chances in the unknown regions, beyond what you now call the unclaimed territories. But surely contact would have been beneficial, Vor said. The Confederation was founded on principles of mutual aid and respect. Captain Reyes nodded toward a tall, silver-haired human who stepped forward with a small device. When activated, it displayed historical recordings showing early encounters between Confederation precursor species, violent conflicts, resource wars, planetary colonizations that displaced native populations. Your Confederation evolved toward peace, Reyes acknowledged. But humanity chose to observe that evolution from a safe distance. We built our own civilization, our own technologies, our own path among the stars. And now, asked Commander Brax, why reveal yourselves after all this time? Captain Reyes exchanged glances with her colleagues before answering. Because something is coming, Admiral. Something that threatens both humanity and the Confederation. We've detected disturbances in the fabric of space-time at the edges of charted space. The same patterns that preceded the void storm that forced us from Earth. You're suggesting another calamity. Vor's mandibles clicked anxiously. We're suggesting an invasion, Reyes said grimly. And if we're correct, neither humanity nor the Confederation can face it alone. As the diplomatic talks continued into the night, Vor found himself on an observation deck with Captain Reyes, watching the stars. The human fleet hung in space beyond, their advanced ships a testament to what humanity had achieved in isolation. Your vessels, Vor remarked, they're unlike anything I've seen. Necessity drove our innovation, Reyes explained. Without allies, we had to become self-sufficient. Without established trade routes, we had to maximize efficiency. Without safe harbors, we had to become stronger than any potential threat. And now you believe we face a common enemy. Reyes nodded, her expression solemn. "We've been tracking their approach for decades. We call them the Void Dominion. They exist partially outside normal spacetime. They don't conquer, they consume. They're the reason humanity has maintained such a formidable military presence despite centuries of isolation." "Why should we trust your assessment?" Vor asked. "For all we know, this could be a pretext for your own expansion. If conquest were our goal, Admiral," Reyes said quietly, "this conversation wouldn't be happening. Your scanning technology can't even penetrate our basic shields. Our weapons systems remain undetectable to your sensors. Had we wished to conquer, the Confederation would never have seen us coming." The truth of her words sent a chill through Vor's exoskeleton. He realized then what the human was actually offering. Not a plea for help, but a lifeline to the Confederation. "How long do we have?" he asked. 6 months, by our calculations, before their advance forces reach Confederate space. Vor turned to face her directly. "And what does humanity propose?" "An alliance," Reyes said simply. "We provide the technology and military expertise. You provide the numbers and resource networks. Together, we might stand a chance." As the human fleet escorted the Confederate ships back to their territory, Admiral Vor watched from his viewport, contemplating the strange twist of fate. Humans, the species of legend, the ghost species that had vanished into myth, had returned at the moment of greatest need. Whether they would prove to be saviors or simply fellow victims of the approaching storm remained to be seen. What was certain was that the galaxy would never be the same again. The forgotten promise. The ancient halls of the Confederation Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from all 27 member species filled the tiered seating, their murmurs creating a cacophony of languages and sounds. At the center of the chamber stood Admiral Vor, alongside Captain Elena Reyes and her human delegation. High Chancellor Oris called for order, his crystalline voice resonating through the chamber. "This emergency session will now commence. We gather to address the revelation of humanity's existence and the threat they claim approaches our borders." "Claim?" challenged Reyes, her voice calm but carrying an edge. "We have shared our sensor data, our historical records, and our scientific analyses. The Void Dominion is no claim. It is a reality we have been preparing to face for generations." The Vexari Chancellor nodded slowly. "Indeed, and our own scientists have verified the anomalies you've identified. However, many on this council question why humanity chose this moment to emerge from hiding. Some suspect ulterior motives." A tall, serpentine delegate from the Cesari Consortium rose. "How convenient that these humans appear with tales of doom, offering advanced technology in exchange for our resources and cooperation. Perhaps this Void Dominion is merely a fabrication to manipulate us." Captain Reyes remained composed, but Admiral Vor noticed her jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. Before she could respond, Vor stepped forward. "Council members, I have personally witnessed the human fleet. Their technological capabilities far exceed our own. If conquest were their intention, this debate would be occurring under very different circumstances. Perhaps," conceded the Cesari delegate, "but history teaches caution when dealing with unknown species bearing gifts." A ripple of agreement passed through the chamber. Then, unexpectedly, the human delegation's oldest member, a white-haired man introduced as Admiral Hiroshi Nakamura, requested permission to address the council. "Honored representatives," he began, his voice weathered but strong, "I understand your suspicion. In your position, humanity would likely share the same concerns. But there is something you should know, something we had not planned to reveal." The chamber quieted as Nakamura activated a holographic projector. An image appeared, ancient compared to the technology they had previously demonstrated, showing primitive spacecraft and early alien contact. Before the Void Storm forced our evacuation from Earth, humanity had made contact with 3 spacefaring species. 2 of those species are now members of your Confederation. Gasps and murmurs spread through the chamber. The Thraxi and the Aquarians, Nakamura continued, looking toward representatives of both species. Our encounters were brief, exploratory. We were taking our first steps into the galactic community when disaster struck. Before we fled, we made a promise to return if we survived, to share what we learned, to join a united galaxy. Admiral Vor turned to the Thraxi and Aquarian representatives, whose expressions betrayed their shock. Ancient records mention mysterious visitors, but those accounts had been dismissed as pre-spaceflight mythology. We kept our distance not out of fear or distrust, Nakamura explained, but because we needed to become strong enough to fulfill that promise. We needed to ensure that when we returned, we could contribute to galactic security rather than become a burden. The revelation changed the tenor of the discussions. Ancient records were examined, confirming Nakamura's claims. What had been dismissed as legend now contained remarkable accuracies about early human technology and appearance. The debate shifted from whether to trust the humans to how best to prepare for the coming threat. 2 months later, the first Joint Human Confederation military exercise commenced in the unclaimed territories. Admiral Vor found himself aboard the human flagship Horizon, observing their operations alongside Captain Reyes. Your crews operate with remarkable efficiency, he noted as they watched the integrated command center. Humans worked alongside Confederate officers, teaching them to use adapted versions of human technology. Necessity breeds competence, Admiral, Reyes replied. For centuries, we've operated knowing we had no allies to call upon, no reinforcements to expect. Every mission had to succeed on its own merits. And yet you maintained hope, Vor observed. You could have chosen isolation permanently, built your empire beyond our reach. Instead, you kept your promise to return. A sad smile crossed Reyes' face. Not all of us wanted to. There were factions within the Alliance who believed humanity should forge its own destiny, separate from other species. The debate raged for generations, but in the end, we remembered who we were before the evacuation. Explorers, dreamers, seekers of connection. Their conversation was interrupted by an emergency alert. Lieutenant Commander Jackson, Reyes' second-in-command, approached urgently. Captain, we've detected spatial distortions at the edge of the sensor range. The pattern matches void signatures. Reyes' expression hardened. They're early. How many? At least 3 scout vessels, based on the disruption patterns. They're probing our defenses, Vor realized aloud, testing our response capabilities. And they're about to get their answer, Reyes replied. Signal the fleet. Intercept Formation Alpha. This is what we've been preparing for. What followed demonstrated to Vor why humanity had survived and thrived in isolation. The human vessels moved with precision that Confederate ships could only aspire to. Their weapon systems. Directed energy weapons far more advanced than anything in the Confederation arsenal, activated with silent efficiency. The void vessels, when they finally appeared on visual sensors, defied conventional understanding. They seemed to phase in and out of normal space, their forms fluctuating between solid matter and energy states. Their hulls absorbed light rather than reflecting it, creating the impression of moving tears in the fabric of reality. By the first light, Vor whispered, "What are they?" "We call them face ships," Reyes explained as she coordinated the response. "They exist partially in our dimension, and partially in what we call void space. Conventional weapons pass through them unless timed precisely to their phase shift. The battle that ensued was unlike anything in Confederate military history. The human vessels predicted the phase shifts of the void ships with uncanny accuracy, timing their weapon discharges to coincide with the moments of vulnerability. 2 of the scout vessels were destroyed within minutes. The third attempted to retreat, opening what appeared to be a tear in space itself. "Quantum tether," Reyes ordered calmly. The Horizon fired a beam of coherent energy that somehow anchored the escaping vessel, preventing its retreat. "We need intelligence more than another destroyed ship," she explained to Vor. "This one, we capture." The boarding operation revealed the true nature of the Void Dominion. The creatures within the captured vessel weren't biological in any conventional sense. They were composed of energy patterns that manipulated matter around them, creating temporary physical forms when necessary. They communicated through electromagnetic pulses rather than sound or light. The human scientists, working alongside Confederate xenobiologists, managed to establish rudimentary communication. What they learned confirmed their worst fears. The scout vessels were merely the vanguard of a massive invasion force, drawn to the energy signatures of technologically advanced civilizations. The Void Dominion didn't conquer, it consumed, absorbing the energy of stars, planets, and living beings to fuel its expansion. 3 months later, with the full invasion force approaching, the combined human Confederation fleet assembled at the edge of Confederate space. Over 800 vessels, the largest armada ever assembled in known space, prepared to make their stand. Admiral Vore stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, now retrofitted with human technology. Captain Reyes' holographic image appeared before him, her expression resolute. The defensive line is established. Admiral, all ships report ready status, and the phase synchronization technology deployed across the fleet. Your gunners will see targeting solutions when the enemy vessels phase into our dimension. The timing will be automated. They simply need to fire when indicated. Vore's mandibles clicked in acknowledgement. Captain Rice, Alina, whatever happens today, I want you to know that the Confederation recognizes the debt we owe humanity. You kept your promise after all these centuries. A rare smile crossed her face. Let's ensure there's a galaxy left to enjoy that friendship. Admiral. The void before them began to distort as the first wave of the invasion force arrived. Hundreds of face ships, varying in size from small attackers to massive dreadnoughts, tore through the fabric of space-time. Behind them loomed something even larger, a construct the size of a small moon, pulsing with energies that defied analysis. All ships, Vore commanded, battle formation. Remember your training. Trust the targeting systems. Hold the line. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations as the Void War, a desperate struggle against an enemy that defied conventional understanding. The human-designed weapons proved effective, but the sheer number of enemy vessels threatened to overwhelm the defenders. The turning point came when a squadron of human ships, led by the Horizon itself, executed a maneuver that Confederate tacticians had deemed impossible. They synchronized their drive systems to create a concentrated gravitational wave that disrupted the phase-shifting abilities of the Void vessels, forcing them to remain fully materialized in normal space. All ships, Rise transmitted across the fleet, target the enemy command vessel. Full weapons discharge on my mark. The combined firepower of nearly 800 ships concentrated on a single point. The resulting explosion created a cascade effect, disrupting the phase coherence of the remaining Void ships. Without their anchor to normal space, the surviving vessels began to destabilize, their forms flickering wildly before collapsing in on themselves. In the aftermath, as damage reports flooded in and rescue operations commenced, Admiral Vore found himself once again standing with Captain Rice, this time amid the wreckage of what had once been the frontline defensive position. We lost 63 ships, Rise reported solemnly. Another 92 heavily damaged. But the Void advance has been halted. Their remaining forces are retreating beyond sensor range. Will they return? Vore asked. Eventually, Rise admitted, but not soon. And when they do, they'll find a galaxy united against them. The following day, the High Council convened an emergency session. With the immediate threat contained, the discussion turned to the future of human Confederation relations. High Chancellor Oris addressed the assembled representatives. For centuries, we believed humans were a lost species, a missed opportunity for galactic cooperation. We built the Confederation without them, never knowing they watched from afar, building their strength, honoring an ancient promise to return. Today, I propose we formalize what has already been demonstrated in battle, a full alliance between the Galactic Confederation and the Earth Alliance. The vote was unanimous. After 500 years of separation, humanity would finally take its place in the galactic community, not as supplicants or refugees, but as equals, perhaps even as saviors. As the formal ceremonies concluded, Admiral Vore approached Captain Reyes. "Your species was never forgotten, you know. In our histories, humans were always the missing piece, the ghost species that might have changed everything. Now we know you were there all along, waiting for the right moment." "Not waiting, Admiral," Reyes corrected him. "Preparing. There's a difference." Together, they looked out at the combined fleet, human and Confederation vessels, side by side, the beginning of a new era for both civilizations. The stars no longer seemed cold and distant, but full of promise and possibility. The ghost species had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Retroclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.